not be in vain. People protested when Naira was 180 and when it was 1,005, they're not protesting. Are they dead? So let's not say it should not be in vain. I spoke a few days ago and people said I'm demarketing Nigeria. When it's true to be demarketed, World Bank has just shown that 75% of Nigerians in rural areas are poor. Is World Bank demarketing Nigeria? UNICEF 2 days ago released that Nigeria now have over 2 million malnourished children, the second highest in the world. Are they demarketing Nigeria? Let's face the reality. Their labor is in vain. We have a country now that is not democratic. We are not a democratic country. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Is the election that happened in Edo, is it democratic? Just the last election in Edo is the most undemocratic election. Everybody knows who won that election. So why are we keeping it and saying, let your work not be in vain? It is in vain. So we can start picking the pieces now, because they've destroyed everything people have sacrificed for. Look at what is happening in Nigeria today. Above all, Jaragowan, you sacrifice everything. The country people sacrifice has turned into a crime scene. All we do today is stealing. You know, and we have to do something. All we need to do is live a courageous life. May God Almighty that called him home grant him eternal rest and grant us the courage to look into what our Father lived for and start picking our pieces. May God bless all of you.
For the life of this man.
He lived a life of justice, equity, fairness to all Nigerians.
And even listening to all the contributors, you really see that he was a very courageous person, very focused. And one key thing, he believed in the unity of this country. But he doesn't believe that any section of the country should suffer. So these are the things, and he's ready to tackle anybody at any time. If he believes that you've said something that's not fit in believe about building a united Nigeria. People may see him as controversial in one way or the other, but if you listen to all his statements, it's about a country that must remain one, a country that every section, every individual should have the same treatment. These are the qualities of Ike Clark. And what I told the person who asked me the question is that we cannot replace him. All what we have to do is to make sure that we come up with annual lecture or something that will continue to advocate his own vision and philosophy. And doing that gradually, we're going to impact on the younger ones what Ike Clark stood for. We're all leaders in our own rights, but everybody has his own style of leadership. And I mentioned to that person that even if you read through the history of West Africa, you see that kingdoms rise and fall. And you hardly get, from the same kingdom, you hardly get two leaders that will do the same thing. One leader, one king, powerful king will come and build the empire. Sometimes a weak king will come and the empire will even go. But then this empire continues to endure. So Ike Clark has done his best. It's left for us to believe in his own vision for life and his own philosophy. When my good friend Michael Zakome spoke, he talks about the issue of one-party states. And when you listen to the news, read the show, go through the show media, that's one thing that on an occasion like this, probably one need to. Yes, one-party states, countries have managed one-party states. Yes, one-party state may not be an evil after all, because Julius Nyerere of Tanzania used one-party states to stabilize his country in their early days of independence. He felt that his country has, just like Nigeria, too many tribes and tongues, two principal religions, Christianity and Islam. If he allowed multi-parties, some parties would toe the lines of religion, some would toe the lines of tribes, and unity would be difficult. but it was properly planned. It was not by accident. If we must, as a nation, go one party, then it must be designed, it must be planned by experts, and we know what we are going in for. But if we come through the back door by political manipulations, then we're heading to crisis. So I will advise that probably a country like Nigeria, it's better we allow the system to stay as it is. Yes, the multi-party, but if we, for some reason, we must go one party, then it should not be an accident. It should not be by political manipulation. Because if you read this book, How Democracies Died by two American professors, then you see that some of these are the symptoms of the death of democracies in nations. And Nigeria is a complex country. And I think it's better we manage the situation as it is, that manipulating the system in a way that will suffocate the country to death. I thank you.
Well, if you look at what Bishop Cook has said, he says the work in progress. Let me follow my brother when he said about 1999. If you look at where we are today, it's like they started in 1999, laid the foundation. Some people came and took it to a decking, and some people were trying to raise it to first floor, and some people came and knocked everything down. That's the situation where we are now. Everything has been knocked down. Nothing works. And I'm somebody who can say this exemplarily. I became a governor to the court when President Obasanjo and Atiku were in government. I did not pay the court 1 naira. I was sitting in my house in the office, and the court declared me winner. When a governor is not student, it can happen in Nigeria today. When I was being impeached, the president sent people to come and intervene on my behalf. Nnamdi came begging house people not to impeach me. Today, the president impeaches the person. So that is the thing that is collapsed. They were begging my house not to impeach me. And they were PDP. I was in Africa. And they were begging. President was calling me and said, Peter, are you okay? Even when I was impeached, President Obasanjo called me and said, are you okay? Are you safe? When I go back from the court, when court eventually declared me under Nduba, President Yaradua called my phone in London and said, congrats. I said, President, I can't come back because, if I come back, these people, he said, tell me the flight in which you're coming back. And I told him, when I came in the first time, military people came to receive me at the airport. I couldn't believe it. I took me straight to him. Now the president will ask me not to come back here again. So insane. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about how we are going to rebuild it. It's collapsing.
I'm glad that my last respondent said yes and no. So,
well, I would say to China, China is not democratic.
it isn't.
And I'm not going to compare ourselves with Singapore. It's a country of less than 5 million people. But I'll compare ourselves with Indonesia. Indonesia is 280 million. And coincidentally, the country with the highest number of Muslims. We should look at their democracy. They have what we call proportional representative. That is what I've always championed and would do. You cannot have, let me even go back, no country in the past 3 years conducted election had less than 30% of registered voters participate in the election, and they held it. Everyone was go and check from South Africa to Mexico to Indonesia. They were not less than 60%. Nigeria was 23% of registered voters. In that 23%, Nigeria is the only country where you can be declared a winner without receiving 50% plus one of the vote. Our own was 37%. And there's no proportional representation, which is why you can have opposition here. Because if you had that, what you said wouldn't have happened. Because the person there now has 37% of the vote, call it 40. In the Senate, would have had 44 members. PDP, with their leader, would have had about 34 members. And Labour would have had 24. In fact, we should have actually formed government. You cannot have a minority person sitting in government with everything, chasing everybody out, destroying everything. We must change it and have proportional representation so that they give us the elected. That is how it works. And when we do that, go and see it in Indonesia. In Indonesia, the president's party is not the leading party in the parliament, but they have proportional representation, which brings proper checks and balances. Like he said, it's the operators. That is why I said it's failing. His argument shows that it's failing. Because the operators now have failed it. That is when we go back, it is failing.
But even in Nigeria, there's more to do with the operators. I'll give you an example. Here in this room, seated, is former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Under his regime, state of emergency was declared in a number of states. The National Assembly, then we had Senator Pius Anyim as President of the Senate, and of course, Senator Nnamdi and Senator David Mark. They all worked. And then of course Speaker Masari was also Speaker of the House of Representatives, Speaker Ete and Bankole and myself at the point. We all ensured that 2/3 majority of members of both chambers passed the emergencies in those times.
By 2/3, each member had to vote.
Each member had to vote. And you know that Parliament is guided by the Constitution, by its rules, and by precedents. In this same National Assembly, we have the same Constitution in a way, under Section 305. It has not been amended since the commencement of this democracy. We have our standing rules, and we have precedents of how 2/3 were able to be established in those instances where emergency was declared in Plateau, emergency was declared in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. And we stuck by those. And we were guided by the Constitution. What happened in the last one? So I still insist that you need to check out the operators of the system.
I have asked that question because Bishop Kuka, when he was speaking, made reference to how we will balance it.
Yeah, I think we are looking at democracy within the context of Africa, not just Nigeria. And I listened to the speaker very well. He talked about the challenges, but I'll go even further. I don't know whether many of us were aware of the meeting last week in Qatar between the president of Rwanda and the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo over the war that was going on there. But what I found very striking is how the two leaders will even meet. Because a few days before that meeting, the president of Rwanda granted an interview. And in that interview, he was very brutal on the president of the Republic of Congo. He gave an anecdote that there was this report that he read somewhere that an Italian man, an Italian who lived in Belgium, said that when he was in Belgium, that the current president of Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix, was a driver for him, a delivery driver. He was selling pizza. That's according to President Kagame. So he said, the Italian man said, when I heard that Felix became the president of Congo, Felix couldn't deliver pizza. And it's the president of President Kagame telling this story that you have a president in the Republic of Congo, a man who was so incompetent in his early life that he couldn't deliver pizza. That's the kind of president you have. The Republic of Congo has saddled beside it. I don't think that story is true, but that's beside the point. The point really is that there are challenges for every country when it comes to management of politics. What the lesson for us is democracy is about serving the public good. It's not about it. That's why I agree to an extent with what His Excellency said. It's a work in progress. But I also agree with what His Excellency Tinubu said, because there are also challenges that we can see within our own environment. But we have to look at both sides, the challenges as well as the prospects, and the role we can play to make this democracy better. That's what I will say. Democracy will serve the public good. If you, I listened to Bishop Kuka when he was talking about Indonesia, in Singapore. People easily have talked about Rwanda, for instance, as a model in Africa, because at least people believe that the system is working for the majority of the world. I've never been to Rwanda, but I hear a lot of good things about Rwanda. But there are also people who believe that Rwanda is not the model. So that tells you about the way people reason about this democracy thing. Yeah, it's working for the ordinary people, but the elite are also complaining that there are issues of human rights, there are issues of justice. So at the end of the day, there is no perfect democracy anywhere in the world. But what is essential is that government, by any means, must serve the public good. I think, for me, that is the message we should.
So guys, we know that recently, Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State, came out to say that Peter Obi is demarketing Nigeria. So he said Peter Obi should stop demarketing Nigeria after Peter Obi was hosted outside the country, during which he said some things about what is actually happening in Nigeria. But because the APC doesn't like you to be raw, they like you to cover up a bit, to behave as if all is well when all is not well. And when Peter Obi dived deep into some of the things happening in the country and why the country is not moving forward, you know, he said Peter Obi should stop demarketing Nigeria. Now Peter Obi has finally replied him. He's a man of few words, you know, and it takes his time to make his statement. Maybe Sanwo-Olu was expecting early response from Peter Obi, but Peter Obi is very busy. He's too busy with so many other vital things than to start looking for APC agents to start, you know, replying whatever statement they've put out there. But, you know, Peter Obi is somebody who does not like to make noise. He says it the way it is, and he backs up whatever he says. It's not as if he's just criticizing the Tinubu's government. And I'm just wondering, why do we hate opposition? Why in Nigeria? Why are we not seeing opposition as a tool that helps the ruling party, that, you know, that really helps the government of the day? That is the job or the role of opposition, and that is what opposition is meant to be. That is actually the role Peter Obi is playing. But when you look at it, the APC, they don't like it. How do you expect somebody that is on the other side to start talking good of you when you know that you really have so much problems around you? You don't want people to call out those challenges, you know, and they see Peter Obi as a bad person because he always speaks up. So guys, that is the APC for you. They don't mean anything well for this country. All they want is to grab power. After Buhari took Nigeria 100 years backward, like people would say, see, Tinubu now came to take us back 500 years. I'm telling you that, see, because of the self-centeredness of these leaders, they are not going to achieve anything. You know, we are living in a country where a leader can comfortably leave the country to go get medical attention and will not even bother building hospitals, even no matter how small it's going to be. In Nigeria, that can diagnose some simple ailments. You know, people will fall sick, they will tell you they have to be taken outside the country, and you see them begging money all over the places. It's just because the government has failed its people. Anyway guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.